Hey guys, StoRm here, and today I'm going to be showing you the Porsche 718 Cayman GT4 Clubsport at Golden Max in multiplayer in Asphalt 9. Thank you to StoRm of Legions United Android for these races. Please consider subscribing if you haven't already, and check out the Purple Team Discord, link will be in the description, and enjoy these races. So, all of these races were recorded in Rush Season, but in Legend League. And this is a C-Class car. It goes 209 miles per hour, and at max, it feels quite a bit like the Pininfarina H2 from what I have seen. Its acceleration is not the best, but its handling and nitro efficiency are both pretty good. Still not the very best though. Now in this race we have got an Icona as well as a Corvette and some other higher class cars. Now this is one thing that you will really not find in a season that isn't a Rush season. But in Rush season, you can actually do this with many cars. I know Sarjan did it a while back in some races on my channel with the Scalo Ortega, so if you would like to see a similar instance of a low-class car competing against high-end S-Class cars, that would be one to check out. Along with two Iconas in this race, there is also a Lamborghini Centenario, and somehow this Cayman that goes less than 210 miles per hour is in first place. And now we are coming up to the end of the race. I usually go to the right here because there's a barrel roll to give me some airspeed closer to the end, but I see a lot of people going left, so I'm not entirely sure which way is better. One of the Icona comes in second, followed by an Aventador J, and there was actually an Ortega in this race who did not do quite so well. Now we are moving on to a race on Osaka against an FXXK, a GTR Nismo, a LaFerrari, and a bunch of other cars that you'd think this one would get absolutely obliterated by, including a Trion Nemesis and a Pagani Huayra above 4,000 rank, but it goes a bit better than you might expect. By the way, these races were recorded previous to the current 718 Cayman season, so that is why they weren't recorded in that season. But being in Legend League and all the S-Class cars running around, there is some still really good competition, at least in terms of the cars. I might actually be able to make it to Legend League this season. I'm in Platinum League right now at around 6,700 rank, primarily because I've been playing a lot of races in the P1, the Ford GT, and the Corvette Grand Sport, so I can make videos about all three of those in the near future. The P1 because, well, I haven't done one of those at max yet, and the Ford GT and Corvette Grand Sport because they got buffed in the most recent update, and I'm sure people are wanting to know how much different are they actually in multiplayer. Well, let me just say that the Corvette Grand Sport, while being slower, is still pretty much overrunning multiplayer, and the Ford GT is not a whole lot better. But I still got some surprisingly good races in that one, beating some cars that I really would not have expected to otherwise, so stay on the lookout for those. Here we beat that Huayra and a VLF and all of those other cars, and actually the only car in this race that wasn't in A or S class was an Aston Martin GT12. But in this race there's a bit of a wider spread with 5 B-class cars, including 2 Huracans, and then we've got an Aventador J and a Koenigsegg Jesko. Now, although Rome is a pretty good track for this car, being pretty agile and all, a lot of the other cars in this race are also pretty attuned toward that, like the Corvette Grand Sport and the Huracans, for example. But I was interested to see how would the Jesko perform. It was below 4,000 rank, like 3,900 something, which is high, but it's fairly low for a high-end S-Class car, especially a King like that. And even though that car is still extremely fast at stock or at low stars 1 or 2 or whatever, it's still above 300 miles per hour. Its nitro efficiency and acceleration just really can't do all that well. So I was expecting it to not be doing especially well on Rome because it probably couldn't get up too much speed, and that's pretty much what happened. The car ahead of us right now is actually a Huracan, which makes sense given the track that it's on. Something interesting happened recently. Gameloft actually extended the Porsche Carrera GT special event by a week. Now that isn't really going to help me any because, well, it doesn't help me get unstuck from 500 trophies, but I'm sure it will give some people who might be a little bit behind in it a bit more time to catch up. And there we barely beat that Huracan, who went the slightly longer way, and I've actually seen some people go that way slightly more recently, some even going on the other way on that track. And some people have asked me, actually, would I like to see reverse tracks in Asphalt 9? Well, we've already got them. They're just not called reverse tracks, but there are ones. If you go into the club races, you can see that when you go to create a track. Moving on, we've got a race on Shanghai against primarily a couple of Huracan Evo Spiders, which unsurprisingly are 2 of the biggest competitors in this race, just because they're so easy to drive and they are better than the Corvette. And so I'm seeing some people who used to drive Corvettes probably coming into multiplayer with Huracans now, and that's probably the way it's going to be, and then we'll see Huracans take over multiplayer instead of Corvettes in not too long in the near future. I kind of hope that doesn't happen. I like to see a good variety, but at least making the Corvette a little bit slower has actually made it so not quite as many people are using it in multiplayer, although they are still all over the place. It went from 217 to 214 miles per hour. The rest of the car is more or less the same thing. It still is just as agile as before, so don't worry about your Corvette just feeling worse. It's just going to be a few miles per hour slower, and it's still decently viable. Now, near the end of this race, something really weird happens. Upon crossing the finish line, the position goes from 2 to 1, and even though StoRm finished behind one of the Huracans, the game counted him as coming in first place. I think this happened to me, or to someone that recorded races for me a while back as well. It's kind of strange. Usually that only happens if one of the two people has a poor internet connection, but I didn't really see that there. So, not entirely sure why that happened, just weird Asphalt 9 things, I guess. He did have a red Wi-Fi symbol next to his game, but I've seen a lot of people with that, and they usually only really seem to have problems with not finishing in the right place when they're, like, in the red blinky mode. We've now got another race on Osaka against 3 Corvette Grand Sports, 3 A-Class cars including a Huayra BC, and a Terzo Millennio. Now, that is one of the only S-Class cars that I have not actually made a video about at Max, and so I'm hoping to get that coming in the near future. I'm going to try to get as many multiplayer videos as I can of cars at Max on the channel as I can, because I want to show them at their peak performance. Now, if most people, including myself, will get a car at a lower star, I will usually make a video about that as well. Like, I'm probably going to be able to get the 911 GT2 RS Clubsport at 3 stars. I'll make a video about my car at 3 stars in multiplayer, hopefully its own multiplayer season if that comes soon after I get it, but then I'll probably also get some races in someone who has maxed it so you can see it in both places how it performs. Now here we passed this Corvette Grand Sport at the last second to come in first place. That was a very satisfying finish for me to watch. Now our next race also has 3 Corvettes, a Terzo, but it also has a Rimac C2, and this time we are on the US Midwest. We're in Frontier, which is a good thing in most seasons, but in the Slipstream season, which the 718 Cayman season is currently, it's not so great. Because if you're in front, you can't get anyone's Slipstream, and they just can ride yours and then get ahead. So the best case scenario, honestly, in the Slipstream season is to be close to the middle of the pack so that you're not just way behind everybody else, but also so that you can pick up someone's Slipstream and hopefully Slipstream ahead of them. Now, if you do get into a situation where you are in front, one thing that you can do is drift a bit so that the other person cannot pick up your Slipstream, or try to even fall back slightly near the beginning of the race so you can catch someone's Slipstream and then pass them a bit later on. That was one thing I tried to do some of the time, because I found that when I was in front for most of the race, oftentimes someone would catch up to me in the second half of the race and pass me because they were able to stay on my Slipstream the whole time and therefore keep a nitro even when I couldn't, because my car is only at 3 stars. And I mean, some people in that season do have higher ranked Caymans, but I found that a lot of them were at 3 stars like mine were. So overall, it has been a fairly skill-based season so far. I'm currently sitting at around 100 position on Windows. I'll see if I can get top 100 in it. And we came in first here after someone has some sort of weird problem near the end. Not exactly sure what happened there. So in the 911 GT2 Clubsport season, I'm currently in 7th position, I think it is. The thing is about this one, since I got to Tier 1, it is a whole lot harder than Tier 2 was for the GT2, where I managed to get first place without too much of an issue, and I probably could have even gotten the car at only 2 stars. But here, it is a lot harder. I'm at 3 stars on the car, and most other people are as well, but there are some really skilled people in there, because you had to get in the top 1% of times in the qualifying rounds to get into this Tier 1. And let me tell you, Tier 2 is better. You do not want Tier 1. And if you saw my live stream this past weekend, you'll know that I had some pretty bad luck in packs for that car. Now, speaking of that live stream, we managed to get 1,355 viewers. I'm not entirely sure how, but I think YouTube was promoting the video or something and recommended. Like sometimes in my YouTube along the side, I see someone else's random stream pop up. I think that's probably what happened there. But overall, that was a really cool experience, and thank you to everyone who joined in. Now for my general review of this car. It is a very high-end C-Class car, not as good as the Venza or Aranera because of its lower top speed, but it is very agile, and so it will be good on twisty tracks still. And FuryStoRm takes the victory at the last second. Thank you to him for these races, and thank you all for watching. Please like the video if you've enjoyed, and consider subscribing for more Asphalt and other games content, and I'll see you in my next video. Goodbye!